Okay.
Great, wonderful. Okay. Hello, my name is Kelly Blumenthal. I am the acting director of the IAU's Office for Astronomy Outreach. And welcome to this interview series of in honor of LGBTQIA plus astronomers. Now this week, in honor of the UN and GLAAD Spirit Day, which is a anti-bullying campaign against LGBTQ youth, we are highlighting the amazing stories of queer astronomers throughout their careers in both their activism and their research. And these are astronomers from across the globe. So here with us today is Javier Armentia, an astronomer and planetarium director from Spain. So welcome, Javier. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, indeed.
So I'd like to start with our first question, and that is, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And please don't be afraid to brag. You know, what's your most proud thing that you've done in your career as an astronomer?
Well, I began as an astronomer, as an astrophysicist at the University Complutense in Madrid. My research was about active stars, and I love it much. At the same time, I was making some vulgarization of science, collaborations with media, and general public and radio and papers. So when in Pamplona began the project of a planetarium here, I came with all my illusions, all my ideas to spread the love for the skies and astronomy. Being myself a cis guy person, I wanted to have an inclusive environment, to have the possibility of, even in that times, I mean, it was 30 years ago, to make possible that much people, especially young children, could come to the planetarium and find astronomy and science inspiring for them, and trying to break all the gaps between science and society, all the gender gaps, all the socio-economic gaps we have indeed, and of course trying to be as inclusive as we can for all people and for all minorities. Being in Spain, I have to mention that the circumstances have been changing a lot. Now we have a legislative corp quite open and approving all LGBT rights, but the reality is not the same. So I've tried, I mean, to make the Planetarium of Pamplona as a focus of culture in a very wide way, trying to mix history, traditions, of course, astronomy and science, but also literature, cinema, and all that in a kind of in a pot. I mean, melting pot to make possible. That means a lot of funny times and splendid opportunities of teaching and outreaching our science. For example, we worked with IOU and the Spanish Society of Astronomy towards getting names for stars and their planets, that exoworld initiative some 8 years ago, or more or less, in 2015, and we made that possible. I mean, giving Cervantes, one of the best known writers in the history of literature, a star with his characters as planets, no? Cervantes, Dulcinea, Sancho, Quixote, and Rocinante. And that was really wonderful because we could feel directly that astronomy can emotion people. and that we can find through the communication of science a way to make inspiration for many other things, no? So that's one of the most beloved things in my career. It's been a long time with many other opportunities, but I can remember that Cervantes star.
I do remember reading about that, yeah, in
Yeah.
2015. It's a really wonderful story, absolutely.
Mhm.
So what has been your experience as a part of the LGBTQIA plus community in the planetarium field specifically?
Mhm.
And has this evolved over time at all?
I'm pretty sure. I have to say that the planetarium community has been very diverse and very openly, inclusive and in all the terms, especially throughout the work of the International Planetarium Society. That's together planetariums all around the world with very, very different realities, very different situations of uh, also with problems. You you have to think that we have planetariums in some countries in which their religion and their laws forbid completely the teaching of diverse reality of the realities of LGBT. Uh, at least in Spain, that's been a different thing. So my experience in Spain is that we had always I mean a wide range of capabilities of teaching different things. One of the things we choose, for example, since the very beginning of the planetarium, was that telling the stories of the skies. You know that mythologies are, well, sometimes are weird, with death, with raping. Even the gender issue is quite sometimes hard to teach to young childs, and but we try always to include the story. No, we had Antino's as a constellation, which was a story of love between, a real story of love between two men. We have also, powerful women in the skies. We have different traditions of the different civilizations and cultures to teach about the astronomy. So we try to include that in our, main menu. In the main course of our activities, and that's been, very grateful. We have had a very close contact with teachers and also with youngsters, but also with families that have found that our activities are very inclusive. One of the things, for example, that has evolved is in all our questionnaires, we include, when we need to include some gender information for segregation of data and all that stuff, we always include non-binary possibilities and I mean, also very respectful, very to treat this data as sensitive for many people. But that is a, that is a way that people can find here. We have a safe place and an openly or inclusive place, and that can be felt in our workshops with children or with people. For example, we had last Friday an open initiative with the city council here in Pamplona to make some editions of LGBT scientists at the Wikipedia in Spanish. We weren't many people, but people know that in the same way they can come here to the planetarium to learn or to practice astronomy or even open science, citizen science projects. We also have that inclusive projects that try to make people aware of reality. So it's very I mean, it's very inspiring to have now some entries on the Wikipedia of very well-known astronomers, which are queer, non-binary, lesbian, or so, and we love that. I mean, it's a way of showing people that in our encyclopedias that conditions, I mean, when they are useful for people, when they teach some examples of life, some activism that can be very inspiring. I just remember the other day we found that Jane Rigby hasn't an entry in the Wikipedia, not even one stating their LGBT activism, but not even a translation of their entry in Wikipedia. So we did it, and we were very funny to include this and other stories in our, so to say, principal or main encyclopedia in internet.
That's a really wonderful thing and a really great, I think, way to make sure that people have nowhere to find role models, you know.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yes,
and
that's
I
it.
think that's really important for particularly for the people just starting out in their careers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you talked about at least part of this in your answer to the previous question, but in your role as the director of the
Uh-huh.
planetarium, how have you made your workspace a safe space for
Mm-hmm.
your LGBTQIA plus employees and visitors? And what work do you think still needs to be done?
Well, it's really a lot of work to be done. That's true. I mean, my work as a director of a planetarium, which is a team leader more than a director in a hierarchical way of functioning of doing things. It's been always to tell people we have to keep in mind that there are realities wide and diverse more than we used to think of. That means that all the communication in our center, in our building, in our place, are also open and inclusive for all kinds of people. Um, and that means more than having a big poster on that at the beginning that we have. It's more that in all our activities we try to use inclusive wording, openly inviting to people to express with completely liberty or complete freedom in that sense. In the last year in Spain, we have concocted formed an association of LGBTQIA plus scientists, technologists, and innovators. So we try to make this for not only for the planetariums, but it was created at the Planetarium of Pamplona, but not for the planetariums only, and not only for our astronomy institutes or observatories or universities, but also to all the spaces of research and also development in the professional issues of all the things. It's called Prisma. Prisma is prism. I mean, we play it even with the idea of the light that keeps a rainbow inside, and so we decided to work for this not in all the places we know for learning, researching, and also communicating to the public as 10 measures towards an LGBTQI plus inclusion, which we have even translated to English, but our work has been at this moment mainly in Spain. We try these different ideas that we are keeping here in the planetarium. That means openly say we have up to this reality. We are against any kind of discrimination, LGBT phobia or transphobia. We are open. We are stopping all kind of hate discourses or initiatives, and we try to be a safe place for people, and of course keeping guard that we won't tolerate, debates on the things that we consider are simply human rights, and that's very important. We not only because we keep out well, that hate we can see in social networks, for example, but because we find that many people, especially families with, for example, trans minors, trans childs, that they can come here and express themselves as they want to. And in their name of election or in the reality of election. And well, we know we are in this case we have a minority of people. We have collaboration, for example, here with an association of families with trans children, which is called NICEN, and they have been here many times just to show other people that they can be, and they have the right and they have the need to be included in our science activity. So these are little things. Well, there are other issues in that decalogue. There are many ideas. We try to show that the research can be done with gender and sex affectivity um, pardon, I'm sorry, I'm just lost my thing. Show that research with gender and LGBT issues can be done and have to be done and have to be shown to the people. Well, obviously not, especially in astronomy, but yes, when we deal with such fields like um, artificial intelligence, robotics, or medicine, life sciences, and all that stuff, we try to present the reality of many other things that, for example, are usually hidden from public knowledge. Uh, we had in the last 2 years, for example, uh, intense debate, intense social debate around a trans law, uh, usually from people who try to hate the realities of the auto-determination of gender and all that stuff. So we try to show here the scientific point of view, the state of the art of the research, and that's very important for the planetariums, like other science centers, have this we are a place of interaction between the academia and the public, or between the research and the science and the society. So whenever we have a scientist or we have a reality of a mother here at the planetarium telling us the reality of things, people know that that's not propaganda. That's part of science, of our public service, and that's the way we do things in the planetarium.
That's really wonderful. Thank you so much. And for those of you who are interested, I will be posting some of those links, or links to
fine, thank you.
To the different organizations that Javier mentioned. So you talked a little bit about having a group of trans kids coming into the planetarium, just feeling at home, or feeling like they could be their true self. If you could go back to when you were first starting out in astronomy, pursuing a career in astronomy, going into the planetarium sphere, what advice would you give yourself?
I don't know. Well, exactly. At the time when I began my studies, it was the beginning of 80s. In Spain, homosexuality was a crime. Not only was there are no nominal equality of rights, but even the LGBT behavior was prosecuted as public scandal or perversion. So one had to be in the closet, avoiding bullying in the school, and behaving normatively, so to say. I mean, we had to keep us. No, we are good people. We don't try to eat children or something like that. So even we had to put up with jokes. I mean, very common, very usual, even in media, even in the television, jokes about queers, and also I was like many others. Um, I had to find my sexuality, to express my sexuality freely in secluded paid places and bars, and like I mean, being in a little in a ghetto. That that began to change at the in early 90s. So when I was beginning to make the direction of the planetarium of Pamplona, so so the idea, I'm just thinking of the Javier uh, in that ages, I would have no sé, my advice to that young Javier would have been, in any case, be proud, believe it in your rights. I really feel that at that time I wasn't sure myself that that was my right to be in the way I wanted to. I was even, I mean, and that's my education. I was felt that I was kind of sick people in so my principal advice would have been fight or express yourself. The world need to be better for all of us, and that's it. I don't know if that if that advice would have been useful for me. Hopefully, I had a family who 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 was aware and happy with my decisions, and also I was working in an astrophysics department at the university, and later on in a planetarium, where people and all my team was well aware of my feelings, and also was very proud to work with me in that respects. So probably I'm fortunate in that sense. So maybe my advice would have been keep on. That can be done.
That's very nice. And so important too to find like-minded people who are willing to accept you for who you are. So in that vein, do you have any advice for future generations of LGBTQI plus astronomers, or any final thoughts that you might have?
Yes, yes. Well, I think we are. I mean, we all. I mean, I'm expressing in that respect of being a public people, some public people that are openly LGBTQA plus in our country or in our profession. Um, I can and I have to. I remember Ben Bars, for example, in neuroscience, but also in academia, how he was convinced that he had um, to speak, especially for young people, and to try to help them in expressing. I hope to be doing this thing. So my advice is that express. To express themselves freely, to demand, to ask for safe places. I mean, we have a very important label that astronomy places, for example, can be safe for diverse people in all respects of minorities, as we have been done this several years ago for gender issues. You know, I mean, we can't imagine now that observatories or institutions or universities would have now segregation rules of I mean, the idea of Harvard calculators, just thinking that the women couldn't go to work to a telescope or couldn't be leaders of IPs of any project. So in the same respect for minorities, in Spain we haven't very mixed race community, but we have some racialization problems and discriminations also. So we have to work that. I mean, astronomy can be that place that can be inclusive and also demanding a world more inclusive also. Having astronomy as an example. We have astronomy as that all along the history has been as an example or even a pioneer in the development of sciences, of social changes. So we have the same possibility now. I mean, from the world of astronomy, we can teach the rest of the people how can be done, and that we have to take parts of this. It's obvious that nobody has to be a hero or fight for their rights as a citizen. I know that the reality in many countries are the situations are very dangerous, and that even in our advanced communities, like in Spain, for example, we have involution fears. That these things can change because of some politics that are not inclusive, even a discrimination, a real discrimination for people, especially for transgender people. So my advice, my idea is that if we keep safe and confident that our work can be done, eager to improve the world, so to say. That sounds quite big things, no? But I think in our little spot of the universe, we can make it a little better future, and that's the idea. I think for young people, I love. I mean, when the young people come to the planetarium with the schools, I can see them, and I can see a variety of gender expressions in the way they wear, in the way they talk, even in the way they make relations between them, and that's a thing that we have to learn also, and keep our science in the same way, very openly queer, so to say. I would love that.
I think that's so important. The idea that everything's always changing and we're all just trying to be a little bit better, bit by bit. Astronomy, I think, is really trying to make itself known as being a safe space. And there are a lot of people who are working toward that goal. So yourself included.
I hope
thank
so.
you. Thank
You're
you so much,
welcome.
Javier, for being here. I really appreciate your time and your work. And with that, I think we'll let you go, unless you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, that is just that I mean, it's been a wonderful time with you, and I'm thanking you very much for. I'm nothing but another one. Maybe I feel always like I mean, like being a cis man. I feel sometimes we are overrepresented in in LGBTQIA plus realities. So I would love, and I'm pretty sure you will have in this interview series, you will have many other flavors of people, and that's our great. I mean, that's fantastic, and I love that.
Yes, absolutely, we will. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Javier. Have a great day.
Okay, bye. See you later.